Welcome y'all to the Blackhoof Saloon, a Wild West Exodus podcast. Mosey on up to the bar and get yourself a bottle of firewater or a glass of sarsaparilla and listen to some good old yarns about adventures of law dogs, outlaws, and weird creatures. So set a spell, water your ride or your rider, and get ready to tune up your posses. This is the Blackhoof Saloon.
Howdy, greenhorns, and welcome back to the Blackhoof Saloon. This is Eric here. As always, I have with me Brian in Texas and Tom out on the East Coast. Say hello, guys.
Hello. Howdy.
And we also have a fourth seat being worn by a special guest. It is the boss, the head honcho, the big cheese. We have Stuart from across the ponds, heading up Warcradle Studios and the gang there behind Wild West Exodus. Say hey, Stuart.
Hey, Stuart.
Okay, so this is a little bit different for the show. Stuart agreed to come on the show and cause a ruckus in the saloon today. And we usually, do the news or we do a little topic and stuff. And we're going to do something a little bit different. We're just going to pick Stuart's brain, ask him a bunch of questions, put him on the hot seat and see if we can get some kind of info for all you guys. And especially I'm going to try and get the show out before the UK Games Expo. So you guys that are traveling to that in England can listen to the show as you go. So we have a bunch of questions. Brian, do you want to start grilling? You're our muscle of the show, so you start grilling, Stuart.
Oh, all right. So my first question, because it's a topic close to my heart, and I know there's a few other lawman fans out there, is really eager for the Infernal Investigations posse to come out. So is there any kind of hints or teases you can give us lawman fans of when this posse is going to be coming out?
Yeah, sure. So they are the next posse for the lawmen to come out. They will be the next one. I know we've kind of showcased a few in the pipeline, but they are the next ones to be released. I would expect to see them fairly soon. By soon, I mean before the summer is probably before the end of the summer here in the UK. So actually, before the end of the summer here in the UK was probably last week. But that would be yeah. Certainly over the next few months, you should expect to see them up on pre-order.
Awesome. So by Christmas, we should see the Lawman Infernal Investigations posse, and then the other posse in the pipes would be Ranger Showboat. So for those Lawman fans, by the end of the year, we might be able to see both of those?
I think that would be a fairly safe bet.
Awesome, because Calamity Jane is in that Ranger Showboat, and I believe every lawman is going to want that model.
Yeah, quite right, too.
Brian's got a grin from ear to ear right now. He's like super excited.
Right. Yeah. So those who don't know, on Saturday I had a tournament here in Houston, and I actually proxied the Infernal Investigation posse for my 800 build, and was able to bring Helena, Jedrick Powell, and Blackhoof 2020, and then some Rangers. It really went well for me. I had a blast playing those models. Helena Miller's yo-yo flight out and flight back, was awesome, and she is crazy good against machines and automatons because of her disrupt pistols. So it was really fun. So Stuart, my next question is about, I guess, my second favorite faction would be the Holy Order. So what could you give us in a way of what to expect for the Holy Order in the coming months?
Yeah, so for the Order have got, I can tell you're a long-time player, Brian. You keep calling them the Holy Order. The Order are... they've got... So there's different strands to the Order. I mean, obviously for us, it's really important that we try and get posse sets for each of the main factions out. So we're really keen to get a couple of posses for the Order in the release schedule fairly quickly. We've already showcased it. We have the Divine Intervention posse, which we've shown off. Have we shown off the Portal Vanguard posse as well? I can't remember.
We have not seen the Portal Vanguard posse yet, but if you send us the the 3D file, we can attach it to this podcast release. So as they go to the splash point, they can see it.
Nice try.
So what's in that?
So Neura, Elita Neura, her posse, the Portal Vanguard, are on the way as well for the Order at some point this year. Well, I say this year, towards the end of this year, maybe beginning of next year. So
right. So
within the next 12 months, let's put it that way.
Right. So the divine intervention is Makura's posse.
Yeah, Makara and her Corcoroli. Yeah, that's right.
Right. So we've seen her design sketch. We've actually, someone in the studio was actually building Makara and some of the Corcoroli. But we haven't seen a 3D render like we have for some of the other sets. Like we haven't seen the official posse set, so we don't know what actually is going to come in that set yet.
Oh right, do you not? Oh, okay. Well, I can tell you what's in the posse. That's...
Yes, please.
Yeah, that was great.
So you have Makara. Makara is the boss of the posse. She is obviously she's a kind of the centaur-bodied Corcorolus. The thing about Makara is she's, whenever the Order come to a new world for their crusade, she is usually the first one to arrive. So she's the first of the Corcoroli to arrive on the Earth. She, in the posse set, she's backed up by you have, I'm trying to remember the names now. So you've got Han, who has the Khopesh, the long Khopesh blade, and the heavy pistol. So she's quite good with the Luminant, the Corcoroli Luminant squads that you can field. You've also got Valana and Siraj, which are carrying those massive glaives, those huge, long-armed or long-handled weapons. Siraj, you'll remember from the old. There was an old miniature of Siraj from many moons back.
Is Siraj an updated mini, or is it going to be the same?
Totally updated miniature, in line with the kind of the aesthetics of the new figures.
Right. So, the Corcoroli now in the Order are imbued human hosts. So what happens is, because of all this external energy from the Order, the hosts can't contain that energy, so they have to have containment suits. So that's why they're a little bit bigger than regular humans. So the old Holy Order models of armored guys, they're a little too small. So Warcradle has upgraded them, so they're a little bit bigger. And so that's the fluff behind why the models had to be redesigned and they're all a little bit bigger, is because it's a containment suit and the human is kind of in there with someone from the Order, which is an energy being. So I guess those combined, they get trapped inside this containment unit while they're here on Earth. Yeah,
I mean, if you had the old Siraj, Auron, and Zane models on the table with the new Corcoroli, it would look like the Corcoroli were doing Bring Your Child to Work Day. They're quite a bit smaller than the new. I mean, there's nothing. They're lovely sculpts, but the new ones, we tried to keep true to the old sculpts. They're little nods, little like helmet details, and some of the armor plates and things are reminiscent of the original models. But yeah, they've been updated and upgraded into the aesthetic that we have for the Corcoroli now. So yes, you have Siraj. You have there's another glaive wielding Corcoroli called Valana. She's in the set too, so they make quite good sort of. Their poses are quite complementary to each other. So yeah, they're quite good, like bodyguard type thing. Not that Makara really needs them. Han's really good for leading your Luminant units, your squads of Luminant Corcoroli. And then finally you have Mithun is the final member of the group. Mithun is carrying a Master Shrike rifle, which is this massive 3-barreled hell cannon type thing. She's a fantastic model, really great. In fact, we liked her so much that we commissioned a large piece of art of her. So when you see our Warcradle stand, there's actually a life-size piece of Mithun art there, and she towers over everybody else. So it's quite cool.
Nice.
Have we seen images of that yet? I know that I've seen Makar and I've seen some of the Corcaroli.
Yeah, well, if you go on the Exodus website, it's all right, I can wait. Yeah, if you go on the Exodus website and on the unit cards, you'll see under the Corcaroli, it seems weird. It's like we knew what we were doing when we listed them. Actually, we've listed on the sheet, you've got Makara, and then for faces, the first 4 faces are the 4 faces that are in that posse. So that's the set.
Awesome. It's almost like you guys have a plan.
It's almost like we know what we're doing, yeah. Catan and Noth are in the Portal Vanguard posse, so that's more Corcaroli coming out in a posse. And then Auron and Zane will be released later down the line in their own funky twin pack. And that's all the Corcaroli for now.
For now.
Oh, for now. Yeah. It's always for now. Well, when you, because at the moment we're just doing the final proofreading on the new dystopian age background, the narrative, and when you read the background for the Ottoman Sultanate, yeah, for now, those are the only Corcaroli we've released.
So some of the ones that did you mention the chain Skulky stole a chain?
Catan and Noth, they're in the Portal Vanguard. So they come leaping out of portals and then hurl semi-sentient, chain-attached harpoons into people and start dragging them across the table and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, so the 2 chain, Noth and Catan, those will be in the later set. Okay. Yes. You didn't mention them. I was like, wait, you didn't mention the chains.
Yeah. They're all about the chains, and yeah, they're both in that new in the next posse set that comes out after Divine Intervention.
Okay, and can you say who all else? Because so it'll come with those two. It'll come with the Nura.
I'd have to have a look. Yeah, so Nura is the boss for that posse, and then it would be, off the top of my head, I believe it's Aaron Bran, Janna Salto, and Venetici Helios, I believe.
Okay. That's what I was assuming.
A lot of fancy sounding names, but basically it's the 3 other named
Estrella.
Yeah, there you go. Get you with all your terminology. That's quite right. 3 other Estrella. See, one of the things we've done with the Order is we've really started to try and make them less of a 1 or 2 note faction. So we're trying to, even with the idea of the spiker or speaker, depending on how you want to pronounce it, we want to have different chambers, for want of a better word, different subgroups within them. So I mean, the Corcaroli are all largely an elite subgroup within the Order anyway. But for the Spiker, who are up until recently, they were the ones doing all the work for the last 1,000 years as part of the Order. So they've, traditionally they've got different groups, different roles, and so you have the Estrella. You also have there are 2 other chambers. I don't know if we've actually detailed them yet. And so yeah, there's lots of really great stuff for the Order to come, but there's just we've got so many things to release and not enough time to release them in. So that will be for some point in the future.
No, and I think the rolling out the Corcaroli the way you're doing is probably the best one to do, because they're so iconic and they're going to stand out on the table. Your strategy of what's releasing when has been spot on, and I'm just eager for those next steps, because the ones that you're making now have been so good, and seeing Makara hit the table and in those large armored things, it's going to be awesome. And knowing that shortly after we're going to start seeing other stuff sneak out for the Order, as great as the Lawman is in my heart, the Order is right there behind it. So that's awesome.
See what it is Brian probably got a new 4x6 table, and his other table is full with all his models, so he needs to start filling that new table.
Gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, Eric's mentioning. Yeah, Eric's talking about the picture I took of all my models except my Lawman, because they were still in my my Outlaw case, but.
I couldn't help it, Brian.
And I added another 13 models this week.
I had a
Looks
question.
like over the summer I'll be adding more.
Yeah, I think so. I had a question for you, Stuart, and I know Tom kind of brought this up. We were wondering about the War Host program. I know all three of us are probably going to jump on it. We're all eager to spread the word. And is there any kind of news? I mean, we all kind of signed up for it and are following on the Facebook page.
Yeah, it's okay. So the Warhost program is something that I don't know if you're aware, but in the sort of the wider community, there's been some issues with things like the press gangers and the henchmen program. So press gangers for privateer press, the henchmen for Malifaux, Magic the Gathering with their judges and things. There's been all sorts of issues around. So what's happened is that, and it's always the case with these things, all the while it's fun for everybody and everybody's mutually kind of benefiting from it, and nobody's getting too serious about it or abusing the system. Any system tends to hold up quite well. But when you get people that start to either try and treat it like a living, or they try and treat it like somehow they are bigger or better or more important than either the company or the customers, neither of those things should be true, then, I mean, really, I see a volunteer program, a scheme, ideally with the war host, but any scheme. It should just be about, you're excited about a game or a company or whatever it is. You want it to be successful. You want to do what you can to help make it successful. If you weren't an officially shirted up, badged up member of whatever the community team was, you'd be going out there probably running demos or introducing people anyway, because you're such a fan of the game and you just want to see good things for the game. I mean, it's from a selfish point of view, maybe just because you want to make sure that the game's healthy and that you're going to have lots of people to play against because you think it's a lot of fun. But whatever your reason for it, and I think over the years, particularly as there's been more and more games going out there, and probably more companies getting more keyed into how the community works and trying to push it, we've come to a breaking point where the programs for some of these companies were not working the way that they originally were intended, and you had people either there was crossing that line where the question was, well, are they actually working? Is it essentially getting people to work for you, but you're not actually going to pay them or give them medical insurance and stuff like that? So it was never supposed to have been a job, but because of the way it kind of developed, some people, I could see how they might have felt that it was a job. You also had, in some companies' cases, their community teams became the de facto kind of voice for the game and for the manufacturer, rather than the manufacturer leading the conversation. It was really what their community team, what their organised play team thought was important or thought was the way to do things. That became the message that was going out to all the customers. And again, I don't think that's healthy either. So from a side of controlling, and not in a kind of a nasty way, but trying to keep the message consistent with what the people who are making the game intend the message to be, that's important to work on and get processes into place. And the other thing is just to make sure that it's really clear for everybody involved when somebody speaks, particularly in this modern age, social media and all these various ways that we can talk about things, just making really clear that when somebody's speaking, that they're not necessarily speaking in an official capacity on behalf of the company, but their own personal viewpoint, that we're making sure that young people are protected if they're going to be running games and things for youngsters. And there's a whole mess of stuff that maybe 10 years ago we just didn't need. And so what we're doing is, rather than kind of winging it and throwing something together and waiting until we come up with an issue, we're taking the time to really make sure the scheme is worthwhile for people to get on board with and do. Because I know, and from what you've said, there's going to be people who just want to get on board in whatever capacity. They don't really care. They just want to be part of it, and that's brilliant. But that enthusiasm's only going to last for so long. We want to make sure that there's actually something meaningful that they feel like they're part of and that they're contributing towards, but also that the community understands who these people are, what they can do for them to help, that they're not there to be taken a liberty of. I mean, the last thing I want is for retailers or gaming clubs to give the impression to one of these war hosts that they're going to come out their way, they're going to go down there, run some games, and then the people involved who they're there to support haven't done their part. So going out to a store and the store's not promoted the game, or the store's not organised anything, and so that there has to be some support for the war hosts, as well as just them charging forward, shirt in hand, all badged up and trying to represent the company and represent the games that they love. Where they're going to has to be part of that process as well, so that there's fettle, so the ground is fertile for them to actually meet lots of people, run loads of games, and everybody has a great time.
Yeah,
I don't want it to be a waste.
That's kind of the bottom line. You want to make sure that everybody has a great time and has fun doing it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I don't want, because again, that enthusiasm is going to bleed away really fast if they're going to all the effort. They've painted the stuff, they're all fired up. The night before they're out they're out to run the demos. They may be rereading the rules. For some people, it's not a natural thing to be meeting the great unwashed public and pressing the flesh, as it were, and making new friends and what have you. For some people, it's like oxygen, and they're brilliant at it. For other people, that's not the case, but they still want to really passionately support the game. It's for those people as well. I don't want anybody to spend all that time and effort, and then you get in there and the place you're going to, there's tumbleweed for custom rather than anything else. So there's nobody there. Nobody knew you were coming, or the event you're going to support isn't really happening properly, or that got cancelled last week. Did nobody tell you? That kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, that's not good either. So we need a process in place that makes sure that we've got great people, that they're focused on the best way to keep excited and enthusiastic and communicating that excitement to potential players, potential new hobbyists and things, but also that they've got the confidence that when there's tournaments or campaigns or anything like that, that they're seen as part of the support network. And so that, as I say, so there is that confidence and fun can be had by everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Tom, did you have any questions for Stuart?
Yeah, my big question is on U.S. distribution. U.S. is pretty big. There's a lot of different distributors.
That's that place south of
Canada. Who can stores go to? And, yeah. So, I mean, who can stores go to? I know there's been some announcements, but I want to make sure everybody knows, who's out there, and stores have agreements with different distributors, and try to get, the game into the stores over here.
Yeah, so there's some great distributors we've got in the US. We have probably two of the main ones we have. We have ACD are out there flying the flag. They're able to supply and support their stores. We've also got Southern Hobby Distribution as well out in the US, and both of those are great places to go to support retailers. Particularly, they've got stock in the US. They've got decent volumes of stock as well, so that it's not like retailers are going to be waiting for stuff to come out of the UK to get over to the US and then from the US onto their store. And that stuff is out there right now, sort of ready to go. If you pick up the phone, or the retailer picks up the phone to one of the distros and puts an order in, it's literally the time it takes them to pack your order and get it out the door to you is the time you're waiting on.
That is fantastic.
All right, what else do we got for Stuart, guys?
I know, Stuart, that we just saw an announcement go out for Gen Con, and that the Warcradle crew has put in 2 tournaments at Gen Con. Do you have any details about what to expect for those tournaments yet? Yeah. Or that stuff's still in the work?
I have local guys that went, as soon as those went up, they signed up for them. They're all super excited about them.
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited too. There's going to be our first big tournaments in the US. We're going to be making sure that so they run using the Gunslinger rules from the packs that you can download from the Exodus site. They are going to be a lot of fun. You're going to have the studio will be there. We'll have the likes of Darren and the Trailblazer guys are going to be there as well. We'll have prize support. We'll have some quite special little prizes as well, but we haven't made announcements on that yet. We're going to have a whole bunch of people from all over the US who are going to be either meeting for the first time or traveling up in groups, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got them on 2 days as well. 2 different days for the show. So either they can attend both, or they can attend them separately. Yeah,
if I remember right, you're doing like a smaller point list on the Friday, like the 500 point, and then Saturdays your bigger one, like the 1500, I believe is what it was.
Yeah, so we've got, we're going to go through all the details on these. The next big show for us is actually this coming weekend. We've got the UK Games Expo, and there'll be lots of bits and pieces there. But yeah, then the next big show we're talking about will be Gen Con, and we'll announce the exact details, prizes, and other bits and pieces sort of in the coming couple of weeks.
It's very exciting. I know a lot of players, me for one, are very excited to see that you guys are going to be running the tournaments at the different cons and stuff, starting at Gen Con. What a better con to start at. And I know there's a lot of people excited, so that's really cool news.
Yeah, don't be like me. Read that entire Gunslinger document. All the tournament information is after the league information. I kind of stopped at the league information and felt kind of dumb when Stuart said, well, just read the whole document. So make sure you read the whole thing.
Oh, sorry. I had a game with somebody the other day of Exodus, and they were reading something. They read a rule to me, and they stopped. They read the rule out of the rule book. They played in a particular way, and I said, no, I don't think you can do that. And they read the rule out to me. They grabbed the rule book. Well, it's in your rule book, that old chestnut. So they go, oh, here you go. Look, it says here. And they read this sentence to me, and I was thinking, that just doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound complete. And so I grabbed the book and I had a look, and they'd stopped reading halfway through a sentence. They'd read the first half of the sentence that supported what they wanted to do, and then not read the second part of the sentence, which made them not be able to do specifically what they wanted to do. Yeah, reading the tournament pack and just reading the first half and going, I don't know where these rules are. That's not so helpful.
Yeah, reading is fundamental.
So you brought up playing a game. How often do you get to play, Stuart?
Not very often, if I'm brutally honest. I mean, outside of playtesting, usually when I play, I'm playing it's not a full game. It will be an aspect of a game, because we're trying. Like, for example, we were playing around with Quick and the Dead the other day and just trying out the Quick and the Dead rules, and really happy with those, and just seeing how that worked and how that interacted with some stuff. Really, really good. So I do get to play with when I can, but I'll be honest, not only have we got obviously Wild West Exodus, we've got their other games in the dystopian age, and Warcradle is also developing other games that aren't from the dystopian age. So there's quite a lot going on in terms of opportunities to play games, but they're not always necessarily social games. They're more work than anything else.
So just because you slipped that in there, what's going on besides dystopian age? Can you tell us?
Well, we probably talked about some of it in various places. So we have for Firestorm, the Firestorm universe, which is the science fiction universe. You have Firestorm Armada, which is space battles with massive star cruisers hammering each other in the cold, uncaring void of space. You have Planetfall, which is the planetary assault kind of sister game to Armada. We also have a really great World War II historical card game that's in development at the moment, and we've been playing around with that. And we also have there's a couple of dice games that I'm kicking the tires of. I've got some thoughts as to what they could be used for. So we've got a whole mess of things that we're developing. We've also got Warcradle Studios. We're always looking for IP and other bits and pieces to develop. So there's a few intellectual properties that we're looking at and mulling over some ideas. I can't go into them at the moment, but certainly lots of things going on behind the scenes. The Wild West Exodus and Dystopian Wars are probably the two that we're talking about the most, because they are the closest to either release or beta test or what have you. But there's lots and lots of other things kind of bubbling away behind the scenes.
Bunch of busy bees in that studio.
Yeah, that kind of teasing about what they're branching out in, all it says to me is things are going well.
I think
it's like you don't look for that kind of stuff if you're struggling, So it's really been just an amazing year watching Warcradle, do what they do and spread this game, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I think the important thing is it lets us know you're going to be around for a while.
I think Exodus, obviously, it's had a long history in terms of when it started, and then it kind of went into the wilderness for a little bit, and then it's kind of come roaring back. I don't know. It's difficult to tell. Certainly, there are more people playing Wild West Exodus now than there were for easily the last few years. I think we are getting to a point, certainly in terms of the excitement and the coverage, the distribution in stores, and where it's being played all the way around the world. I think there are probably more people now playing Wild West Exodus than there have ever been. I think is probably where we're getting as a game. Which, bearing in mind that we didn't have the advantage of it being all completely new, for some people they had heard of Wild West Exodus before, which can work against you because they may never have played it before, but I've heard of that, and for whatever reason they've got a notion in their mind that it wasn't something for them. So because we didn't have our all new, all cool kind of exciting moment, I think the game's done remarkably well. I think a big part of that is to do with the visuals, the aesthetic, but I think also the way the community's taken hold of it and run with it, and it's obviously struck a chord with people as something that they enjoy, and maybe it isn't quite the same as other things that they've played.
I think a possible thing that helped there too is, at least from the coverage and the pictures I've seen from the cons and everything, you guys have an amazing booth.
Yeah, I think because we've tried to put the visuals front and center, we've really invested in trying to make sure that we've got a strong presence. We're in a golden age of gaming. There's more games out there now than there have ever been. In fact, Wild West Exodus 2nd Edition is existing in a world space that has more games to compete with than the 1st edition had. And for us to be making the headway we had to try and make sure that we stood out. And the way that we stand out, I think, is from people like Roberto and his visual style, pushing that. I know our MD, so the guy Richard, who owns Wayland Games, which is the parent company of Warcradle, he was always very, very keen on making sure that we gave it the best go we possibly could, and we really pushed ourselves to be better than other things that we'd seen. Wayland has been around for a decade almost, and we've seen lots and lots of other manufacturers producing products and producing games and launching them and so on. And it's very easy when you haven't done it yourself to sort of sit there and go, we'd do better than all of that. Once you actually get into the process, though, it's very hard work launching and developing games. So, but Rich has been, he's been really quite instrumental in pushing us, in really driving behind the scenes, driving stuff forward. And I think overall that it's that great combination of trying to stand out from the crowd, and you do that by having the best possible artists, sculptors, community team, support team, and having the kind of the business planning behind it to kind of ensure that all the effort and excitement actually has a purpose. Because sometimes you get very excited about things and it doesn't actually translate into anything that's going to keep the company in business.
Well, you guys, something I noticed too is you guys have always been on that very high, standard of interacting with the community too. And when you kind of nurture the community the way that you guys have with Wild West Exodus, the fans, respond to that, and they respond positively, hands down.
Yeah, like I say, I think it's been very pleasing, humbling, flattering the way that the game has been received by people. And it's, I mean, I'm not confident of anything. Don't take anything for granted, but I had some confidence that the game, a Wild West game, would probably do quite well in Arizona, in Texas, in those kind of states where it was a fantastical version of your heritage. I think that was that. If it was ever going to be the Wild West game was ever going to be successful, it will be successful in the states where the Wild West was actually a thing. But it's been, obviously you guys have been hugely supportive. It's been great also to see people in Poland, people in Germany, people in France, people in Nottingham, people all over the UK, people in Australia, getting on board with the game, getting excited about the game, and for some of them in their countries, the Wild West is as fantastical a place as Narnia. It's not a real thing. It's just a thing they've seen in movies or they played as a child. It isn't a real place. And that's been brilliant. That's been really great. And there are some fantastic fans of the game all over the world. Very, very humbling.
So, Stuart, along with the presence, we know that you guys are going to be at UK Games Expo. You know that you're going to be at Gen Con. What's your schedule like through the end of the year and beyond as far as public appearances? Or is that not even planned out yet?
Yeah, well, we know where we're going to be. So we will be we're at the UK Games Expo, is our next port of call in a few days' time, shockingly. We've also got the Gen Con, which is a big exciting one for us. What I really like about the two shows, and I'm hoping to get to Adepticon next year, is that it definitely has a different feel to it. The different US cons, they're not all the same kind of thing. They have different crowd, so it's been quite good to be able to attend some different ones this year. We did PAX at the beginning of the year. That was good. Been interesting seeing, not so much in the fans of the game seem to be universal language, that kind of passion and enthusiasm, but actually then you get a little taste of the culture. And like I say, so you get to down in Texas, and that definitely had that feel of the world that Wild West Exodus was kind of taking inspiration from. But then you go up to the massive convention centers and things at Gen Con in Indianapolis, totally different feel. But as soon as you get people at your stand getting really excited and really enthusiastic, all that vanishes. You forget you're in a giant convention center, and actually you're just focusing on the demos that's being run, or the miniatures you're talking about in the cabinet, or if they're in a conversation with me, I'm gesticulating wildly and trying to draw airships in the sky and things like that, trying to explain what various bits and pieces are and what it represents and so on. So that all kind of drops away once you start kind of meeting up with the fans. So yeah, trying to get as many of these shows in hand as possible, I think is obviously cost effectiveness willing, but is a good thing. So we're doing Gen Con. We've also got there's a tabletop gaming has a convention back here out in the UK. We're looking to support Spiel out in Germany, which is in Essen in Germany, and we have a couple more shows for next year as well already. And so obviously we're doing Adepticon again next year, and we have a few other bits. We'll be at Gamma, and so a busy year. I think we worked out it's probably a show every 6 weeks or so. So quite busy.
Right. Well, there's a really big one coming up in Philadelphia.
Is there?
There is. I know I've been banging the drum for this one, but yeah, PAX Unplugged is going to be in Philadelphia. Any thoughts on that?
PAX Unplugged. It's definitely one of the ones we've been looking at. I would have to check with our team to see if we're going. I don't believe we are, but I will. If you guys are saying it's a good one, I'm happy to have the conversation again to revisit it.
Well, Tom already offered to give me his couch, so maybe he has more furniture for you guys.
Yeah, if you've got couches for 30 people, we can probably bring the whole crew.
I got a couple of cots, a few couches, some sleeping bags.
Yeah, no, that could be okay. That's one for us to look at then. PAX Unplugged. I'll have a look. No promises, but I'll certainly have a look at it.
Awesome. We get some presence up here in the Northeast. We're densely populated.
Right, and you mentioned PAX South in San Antonio, and the store I did a tournament with on Saturday. That was one of the buds planted from PAX South. Brian at Space Cadets, he had went down there that Sunday and met with Kevin and the gang at the booth, and he had always saw Wild West Exodus. He was interested in checking it out, and one of his employees and I were all talking at the tournament on Saturday, and she goes, "Yeah, I was totally against him even looking at Wild West Exodus." And they were at PAX, and she saw the booth and was like, "Oh my God, yes, you have to get this game." So it was like PAX South really did turn her around in supporting them bringing it to the store. And yeah, he's all in. He's got a good supply of materials. He was actually pulling up his order form that Saturday, to look and see what else he's going to bring into the store. So yeah, so the tournaments are great, but y'all's booth is what's selling the game to like store owners and stuff. So yeah, as many of the trade conventions and the game conventions that your booth splashes down on definitely does cause a ripple effect in that area.
I guess it shows that we're serious about what we're doing. And like I say, there's so many games out there that we have to do everything to kind of, because we think our game's great, and we need to do something to kind of wave our hand in the air and say, look, come check our stuff out. Look, come have a look at it, because we're fairly confident that once people have had a look and that they enjoy it, that hopefully should be all that's needed to get them hooked.
Right. Like, for example, the cosplayer that came out as Legendary Nemu, and then she came out as
Countess.
Augustus.
Augustus.
Byron.
Yeah. Tabitha. Yeah. So you guys like that kind of stuff, then? Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's a stroke of brilliance. One of the things that y'all did that just
it drew a lot of people in.
Yeah, I can see that. I suppose it puts it gives brings the characters to life. We've got some set decoration as well. So we've got the RJ generator on the stand, and all the graphics and things we have. We've got some other bits and pieces as well in the pipe. We've got a couple of surprises coming. Some new feature tables as well. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, Rob Hawkins had a blog out last week about the new table for Gen Con, and it's looking brilliant, and he's not even halfway finished. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, there's the place to see the whole thing will be at Gen Con, but we're looking forward to it. Roberto was sort of working on concept art for it for quite a while, just really making sure that it sent the right signal for where we were for 2018. In the same way that in 2017 we had the big watches table, because that showed, because that's why you had the Wild West. Oh, sorry, the Wild West. You had the mountain on the one side, so you kind of facing it, and then behind it you then get the whole portal and the alien complex and things, the Watchers complex, to show that, or symbolically, it was supposed to represent the fact that you're expecting one thing with Wild West Exodus, but actually then when you look into it, there's a lot more going on. Obviously, for 2018, it's about the dystopian age, and that the Wild West Exodus is a really important part of this much larger world. So the table is going to, again, show how the Union and how the Wild West Exodus fits into a larger narrative as well. So lots to look forward to.
Right. Awesome.
Well, did you guys have any more questions for Stuart? Like hard-hitting, questions?
Hard-hitting. Okay, here's hard-hitting. The revision in 1.07 of stun makes the stun weapons more about multiple units instead of being able to use it against a single model. So it's become more of a lackey type special effect instead of something that a face could use against another face or a boss could use against another boss.
Yes.
Is there? I guess the question is there any way? Is there any scuttlebutt about making that weapon have something that can be used against that? Because if you go boss on boss posses like we talked about in our last blog, that power is virtually useless.
So having stun on a weapon means that the idea is lawmen make more use of stun than any other faction, but obviously other factions make use of the stun quality. So stun is there because it means that faces, so characters who tend to be outnumbered by hands units, aren't going to get mobbed by the hand unit quite so much, because all they have to do is to clout one of them with the stun weapon, and they've stunned the unit, because obviously it applies to the unit, not just to a single model. It still causes a wound check though, so you are still if you remove the stun quality from the weapon, the weapon is just as dangerous as it would be with the stun quality. What the stun quality lets you do is, two things. First of all, it lets you take care of let's say these larger units, but the other one is it actually works very well against because it then places the stun condition onto a unit, which as you guys know, when you're going up against something that has tough, giving them stun is actually is quite useful, because you prevent them from being able to take advantage of that second part of the tough special rule. So it does have its benefits.
Oh no, I used it to great use with Jed versus gray units. The thing is when you go against one model, the stun doesn't take an effect until after you've wounded it.
That's right.
Right. So and if it's just only on a crit, it just doesn't happen very often. But the stun doesn't affect them, because if they're dead, the stun doesn't work. It goes away.
Yes, but then it all the qualities go away when the model's
right.
dead. So that lethal disappears when they're dead. Yeah, it's not
right.
Yeah, it's not. You're not losing anything there. You're not. Stun is an extra thing. Then I say stun, the quality for stun. Otherwise, we wouldn't have stun. We'd just have one that just disordered everybody, or we just have one, or hazard. We just replace them all with hazard and just be setting everybody on fire or something. The point of stun is there for the crowd control and to.
Okay, so it's more of crowd control than it is any other effect.
Well, okay, so if you were going up against a large model, bear in mind that the stun condition is applied after you've resolved the hit. Yeah.
Right.
Well, but in theory, you would get, depending on how your actions are and depending on what you're doing, you might be able to hit them again, because it's
right.
Yeah. So I agree with you, but bearing in mind that the limit on faces is higher than the limit on hands units anyway. So you have the ability to potentially use one of your actions to hit them, and then use one of your actions to hit them again. So you can in the same activation, you can take advantage of stun on the target that you just smashed in the face if you were so
didn't have a follow up.
So inclined. Well, yeah, so inclined, and then then you've got other weapons is the wrong word. You've got other abilities as well. Again, with the lawman, you have things. You have things like the what's your judgment. So don't forget that the judgment, with its incarceration special rule, means that any units any models, it's D5+1 stunned models within 8 inches of the judgment. So again, stunned, it does have an effect. You can, if you double team it with a judgment, you can actually go after one of those characters. Yes, you crack them over the back of the head with your iron asp, and then the judgment drags them kicking and screaming into the hold. So it's I just think it is.
It's more of a crowd control.
Yeah, and you can use it to do assassinations and things, but it's not designed for assassination. I mean, what you don't want to do is you don't want to have someone like Wyatt Earp reaching for his iron asp because he's going to stun him, because that's more efficient to take out a character than it is about shooting him in the face with his Magnum Peacemaker. I mean, that's going to put him down. So I mean, again, I think it's the right weapon for the right task.
Right.
So it sounds like you can use it in combination with other things and come up with some combos that'll be pretty effective.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's absolutely the idea behind it. And there will be more things. I can't go into specifics. There are more things coming for the Lawman that will have rules like incarceration that will take advantage of models being stunned. So actually, it's not so much about the immediate kill, so much of, because I mean, this is the other thing, we're trying to make sure the lawmen have their own identity, and actually them subduing and crowd control, the stunning, the in the UK we have a thing called it's a thing our police do, which is called kettling, which is where they basically corral a whole bunch of people into a tight space, and then you process people from that group in small numbers to send them on their way, right? So you're not confronting the entire crowd all at once. You're segregating off small groups, and then you're dealing with them while the main mass of the protesters or whatever it is are kept in one place. It's I'm sure out in the US you have similar tactics and things.
It's kind of like cattle herding.
Yes. Yeah. In the UK it's called kettling. It's something our police do over here. And again, so our police force over here are very well trained at non-lethal crowd control. That's something obviously that they have to be very good at. So yeah.
Well, here in Houston, we haven't had a violent protest yet because of our guys use the same techniques, but they're really good at diffusing, any protests that get out of hand, and they use those techniques to when they can isolate the troublemaker in the crowd trying to escalate things. That's what they use to get them to basically stand down. They remove the volatile guy, and then it calms the crowd again.
Yeah, that is exactly it. So I'm not saying that that's the only way that you're going to be able to play the lawman, but that is an aspect of how the lawman will work because more often than not they're going to be outnumbered. More often than not, they're going to be individually better skilled than unless lawman against something like watchers is a slightly different dynamic, but lawman against outlaws, which is I suppose the classic matchup, you're probably going to have more lawman characters, and the outlaws are going to have more outlaw sort of like gangs and rank and file type stuff. So yeah, there will be some tactics and some units and things that will help you play to that way of doing things. And there's nothing more frustrating for your opponent than they've got their guy who's got like massive amounts of grit, and he's got this protection against this attack and so on. To see him kind of takes a tap to the noggin, down he goes, and then he's like trussed up like a chicken and dragged off. That's a mechanic that we want to play up a bit too.
All right, I think if we've covered all the hard hitting questions, I have something I actually want to do with you, Stuart. It's something that I want to do with when we have our special guest and stuff, and it's kind of going to be some hot seat questions. So they're going to be kind of questions that you answer, top of your head, maybe the first thing that pops into your head, and we can kind of see where that takes us. So
lightning round.
Yeah, like a lightning round. So let's start off with this. First question I'm going to ask you, Stuart, is Stetsons or 10-gallon?
10-gallon, just for the awesomeness of it all.
That's so you can store your sandwich in there for later. Let's see, another one. So I want to know, and along the lines of favorite Western movie / actor. Do you have a favorite Western movie or actor, Stuart?
I really enjoy Tombstone. In fact, I watched it again the other day. I think it's probably my favorite of the films. Particularly, what I like about it is, so look, I like the kind of the lone guy up against it. Like your Clint Eastwood style things, where really they don't have a terrific amount to lose personally, and they're more about going in there and sort of saving the townsfolk or saving, or just getting involved. They don't have to, and it's an aspect of their personality that they've chosen to put themselves in harm's way. So I like those kind of films. I think they're really good. But I really enjoy Tombstone because I think the dynamic between the brothers is really good. The dynamic, even the outlaws, they have they're not just black hats. They actually do have depth to their character. And the fact that the stakes are very personal. The town, there is a threat to the town indirectly in the sense that the cowboys are running everything, but it's more about this notion of authority. And actually, you see the way that Wyatt Earp deals with when he takes over the share in the game, in the poker game at the beginning, and where it's that fine line between the lawman. It's about being a bully is the wrong word, but it's about asserting control, and then it's down to the individual as to whether or not that control will impact on other people's lives or not, and to the degree that it impacts on other people's lives, and the fact that the heroes are so flawed in Tombstone as well, and obviously Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday is amazing. It's got depth, and it's very grey because the Earps are not massively the heroes, but they are the heroes, but they're flawed heroes, and it's I think it's fantastic, great performances by everybody involved, and a terrific version of a story that we perhaps don't know, the truth of it. Really, we know the major blows of the story, but we don't know what it was like to actually be there. So I think it's as good a version as any. But in terms of actor, though, as much as I do enjoy it, I do think that probably Clint Eastwood is a fantastic actor, and in terms of his roles, as a kid, I did have a soft spot for the John Wayne kind of more kind of satirized westerns. But I mean, again, that's a nostalgic, nostalgic kind of take on things. I mean, there are so many good. It'd be interesting because we have some releases coming up for Exodus which are inspired by westerns.
Like the cinema westerns, I guess you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go into the specifics on it. But yeah, there is there are some more like the spaghetti western, the Sergio Leone type stuff, and some of the actors from that in terms of how they. You've got Clint Eastwood, so stuff. But then, some of the stuff that, some of the less well known, well known actors that, to the average cinema goer, I just think some of those performances are absolutely phenomenal, really good.
Here's another question for you, Stuart. Little more lengthier. If you were a Wild West character, like someone you would find in the frontier, historical, who would you want to be historically in the Wild West?
In the real Wild West?
In the real Wild West.
I think Bass Reeves was quite an interesting character, the real Bass Reeves. However, I would say, I stumped him. Yeah, well, look, I like the idea of somebody like Wyatt Earp. I think he lived an interesting life. I mean, it's always the way, isn't it, that you're going to be... Historically, there were hundreds of thousands of people that would have lived throughout that period, but we only really remember the ones that became legend. I think some of the more nefarious ones, as fun as that might be to be them briefly, I don't think I would want to live like them. I think probably somebody like Wyatt Earp, that appeals to me.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, he actually had one of those amazing lives that with all that kind of stuff that he was involved in with, the outlaws and, his time as a lawman, that he actually survived all that violence and made it into the 1920s and passed away as an old man.
I mean, he was still alive when the First World War ended.
Yeah.
So, which is just, you don't think of him as as being of that period. You do just think of him as the Kurt Russell kind of character from years ago. But no, he had a whole life. I mean, at his funeral, we had there were all the people, all the big Hollywood stars of the time were at his funeral because he was he was well regarded. He was famous when he died.
He was such an iconic, real person that inspired so much in the world of cinema and fiction and stuff. So definitely an interesting character. Okay, follow up to that one. Character in Exodus, who would you be?
Oh, now you're talking. I think, I mean, you got the big boys. I think Carpathian's a fantastic character, so deep, so complicated. I like some of the characters, some of the lawman characters that have come across, both historical and not. Obviously, Jedrick Powell is a favourite. I think he's quite interesting, but I suspect somebody else might want to be him.
Brian's kind of dancing around right now. You said his favorite character. So
I think probably my absolute favorite character is going to be somebody like Tesla. I think Tesla is a really interesting character, and I really like Lincoln. I think the Exodus incarnation, the dystopian age version of Lincoln, is a really interesting character. Obviously, he achieved a lot as his historical counterpart did, but his life after death is particularly interesting. So yes, Lincoln.
Little scenario for you here. Now, if you rode in the town, we're kind of in a Western theme here. If you rode in the town on your blank, what would you ride in the town? Would it be a horse, a Blackhoof, Iron Horse, maybe one of the other vehicles? What would you ride in the town in?
I think probably an Iron Horse would be the way I'd go. As I want to keep all my hair and teeth, I wouldn't ride on a Blackhoof, as I'd get irradiated or kicked to death, depending on how temperamental or leaking the automata was. The Interceptor looks like it. I mean, you'd be cool, but it's a bit too dangerous for me. No, I think an Iron Horse, I think is the way to go. I think they look the business, nice and comfortable. I'd probably modify it a little bit, but I think an Iron Horse is the way to go.
So you're gonna put a really nice stereo and some bass speakers in that?
No, I was thinking just like a big back support, bit of lumbar support. I think is one of the ways to go.
Okay.
Maybe a sidecar, so it's not quite so lonely. I can take a floozy from the saloon around me. Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay, and then when you got into town and you moseyed into the saloon for a game of poker, so you sit down at the table, who would be sitting there with you? It could be anybody. Who do you want to play a game of poker with?
What, against?
Yeah, against. Like you're.
So not Doc Holliday.
Okay, no Doc Holliday.
not if I want to win. But if I want to win, it would be probably somebody like. It
could be anybody. It could be fictional.
Okay, yeah. So I tell you what, I would play a game against Broad Arrow Jack, because actually, I think he would be fascinating, charming. He'd have a story, and yeah, he probably would beat you at poker, but he'd be very charismatic about it. Actually, if I could have a three-way game, it would be Broad Arrow Jack, Doc Holliday, and then myself. And I'd just listen to the two of them talking to each other and kind of trying to out-charm and out-smarm each other. And I think that'd be worth the ticket. That'd be worth whatever the modest losses I'd get. And as I just watch these two gambling titans go at it.
Nobody from like real life cinema or I don't know. Popping in my head, E.T. You don't want to play poker with E.T.
Oh, so we're talking about Beyond?
Beyond
Wild West.
Beyond Wild West. So we got your Wild West table. Just at anybody in general now.
Anybody.
It's an open book for you, Stuart.
Well, yeah, but it's like saying that the internet means that everybody's brilliant because the internet has the sum total of all human knowledge in it. Well, that's fine, but you've still got to know what the questions are to find it. It's So you've just said to me that I can be playing a game with anybody in the entirety of time and space,
sure,
fictional or not. Now that would be. I genuinely wouldn't know. I'd have to stick with my. I'd stick with my two, because I think if I started to go beyond that, then I might start to pick a historical character like like playing poker with the real George Washington or Winston Churchill or something like that. And actually, it wouldn't be about the game then. It would be about just
the experience,
talking to them, finding out about their lives. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I didn't mean to send you down a rabbit hole, I guess.
Well, yeah, it means you cut my lifeline and everything. I didn't know where we were going. Yeah.
Well, let's see. What are we at? We're at just over an hour. You guys have any other questions for Stuart? I mean, Stuart, you can, talk about whatever you want, too.
Hold on. I got one.
Okay, Tom's got one.
They're all your children, but when you sit down and play a game for fun that you want to do, what's your faction?
Oh, what for Wild West Exodus? Wow. Okay, yeah, that's hard because there's cool stuff for all of them. I think my personal favorite I really like the Union. There's something very appealing about how they operate. And I like having, again, it goes back to what we were talking about having options. And actually, I quite like sometimes not having as many options, because then I can find my own. I need to have clearly defined parameters in my own personal hobby, because then I can kind of innovate around what's defined. Whereas, like, you go to the Outlaws and it's like, poof, there's so many choices, there's so many different options and things that you can't help but pick one of the really exciting themes. Whereas if I was doing Union, I'd sort of look at the Union and go, well, okay, I could actually do like an engineering, the Corps of Engineers. So I could take Campbell, and then all of my Union armored guards and stuff, but I could give them all like backpacks with trenching tools and stuff like that, and I could and then pick models, sympathetic models that would be that kind of sapping demolitions type thing or construction type thing. So I like finding twists on existing ideas, but because of that, the ideas need to be really clearly defined. And I think the Union is a fairly clear explanation as to what the Union would be. If I was to do the Hex, because I've got a lot of fun thinking on the Hex, it would be about them picking I would represent something like a corrupted or like a treacherous Union detachment that's gone rogue or gone into business for themselves, kind of thing. So you would have all your bandits and cutthroats and things. You'd use Union models, but paint them up kind of bit like slightly ragtag bunch of Union soldiers. So they don't, on first glance you'd think it was a Union force, but actually then you look at them and you realise, the beards are really unkempt. The body language is kind of slouched a bit more. The skins are slightly unhealthy pallor. The weapons aren't quite as well maintained as they should be, or a bit patched together, and so on. So yeah, I like playing around a theme, but I need to have a strong theme to play with. So Hex or Union.
Love it. I agree. I play better or have more fun when there's a little bit of a story around it.
Well, I think you survived all our hot seat questions, Stuart, and we got some good stuff going on there for what we got coming out in the world of Wild West Exodus. And actually, thank you, Stuart, for coming on the show and sitting down with us three stooges and rambling on and on about the game.
No. It's look, I enjoy doing it because you guys have been supporters of the game for a long time. When I was sort of first getting into the Wild West Exodus setting, people like Brian were massively supportive in the in those early days. Just in kind of, and Tom, you too, just in terms of making sure that we had a slightly smoother entry into the community. So anytime, I'm more than happy to pitch in and shoot the breeze with you guys.
Cool, very good. Yeah, it's kind of funny that these guys, as part of our community, I've only met them a few times, and it just, with Wild West Exodus and our community, it really does, I think, generate friendships and get people together to have fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric, your there's been a sort of with the second edition, there's been a real kind of sense of enthusiasm from some of the stuff I've seen from you on Facebook and the like, and I just think you three are a great example as to why I think the game is starting to become as successful as it is and starting to get as noticed as it is because you can judge a game by its community, and I think it's good examples in you three.
Well, thank you. We try hard. we try to infect the rest of the community, as a Hex player would say.
That's fine. They're misunderstood anyway, so it's not.
They just want hugs, Brian. Remember, they just want hugs.
They just want hugs.
It's free hugs for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Stuart.
No, as I say, I'm more than happy to, and I tell you what, you come up with some more searching questions, or because I'm happy to talk about anything. I mean, if you wanted to talk about the origins of second edition and how we came up with the game as it is now, how we developed the rules as they are now, why we developed it in particular ways, what the philosophy was behind things, I'm happy to chat about all that stuff.
Oh, that sounds good to me.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be good.
Well, all right. Yeah, just as a reminder, I'm going to try and get this out for everybody before Stuart, you guys got the convention coming up pretty soon this weekend. As we record, you got a couple more days left to get ready for that. And now I just want to remind everybody to, if you're in the UK, to check them out. Say hi, do some demos, check out their new exclusive figure that they're going to have at the cons available at the booth, and you can order it online. It's Emissary of the Blazing Sun. And yeah, thank you again, Stuart, for coming on. I think that about does it for us guys, so I'm going to be editing like a madman to get this out in a couple days, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Any closing thoughts from you guys?
Hey, everybody, get out there, play some games. Don't hesitate to proxy some of these cards that are on the website that don't have models. You definitely get a good feel of what's to come. I know I did that this weekend, and it was a blast.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good way to try out something that may interest you. I did the same thing. I ran my all-boss posse list actually just yesterday, and after you try it, you can figure some things out. Maybe you need a little bit of tweaking. I think mine needs a little bit of tweaking, but I had a blast doing it. Any closing thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, I just want to say to any of the first edition players who may have been down on the game, go into a second edition, because there have been a lot of naysayers. I was one of Stuart's problem children, probably coming through the testing process. The game is fun. It is not the same game. It is a different game as far as mechanically, but the flavor is there, and it's really a fun game. Give it a try.
Stuart, you got any closing thoughts? You're kind of the main guest here. I should have started with you.
No. It's absolutely fine. I've got nothing hugely to go through. I think, as I say, the Dark Council is a great place for the community to get involved and talk and show off their models and show off how they're getting on. I think what really helps in stores is to have a bit of a champion, a bit of somebody in those retail stores who are kind of pushing and promoting the game. And I think if you want to see your game improve and grow, then by all means champion it in your local store. If you need help from us, get on the Dark Council and ask questions. There's plenty of people on there, not just Warcradle staff, but plenty of people in the community that can help and answer your questions. And yeah, we do listen, would be the other thing I would say. So if there are any thoughts you'd had on things, I mean, so the rule books had a few updates. The vast majority are literally just clarifications. It might be, I mean, the rules themselves haven't massively changed. I mean, there's been a couple of clarifications or a couple of the intent on a couple of things has been kind of focused on a little bit more. But overall, the game still plays the same way that it did when it came out. It's just been based on how we've had feedback from the community and things, particularly on the Dark Council, particularly the likes of you guys who have fed back on ways to make the game either play faster or play more clearly, or if you get people maybe trying to exploit something that wasn't there or wasn't intended to be there. So the community is a brilliant thing, and the more people that get involved in it, the better the game and the community becomes. So my only thing is to really recommend get involved in your community, get involved online, get involved in your stores, and let's see how massive we can make the game this time next year.
Yeah, so don't hesitate, guys, of sending an email to Warcradle and listen, guys, you contact us through Facebook or email us at our Gmail address, and let's create a thriving community. All right, so thanks, guys. That's going to kind of wrap up our episode. Go ahead and check out the game if you haven't checked it out. Just get out there and play some games and have some fun. This is Eric. I'm going to say take it easy and remind everybody as you're out there creating your community to ride with the sun at your back and always roll those crits. We'll see you guys later. No yeehaw this time, Brian?
Oh, yeah, no, you caught me off guard.
What a lawman.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Well, you do know I have editing powers.
Yeah, just use the last one. No.
I'll just repeat it.
Oh, no, I'll give you one. Yeah!
There we go.
Thanks for stopping by the Blackhoof Saloon, y'all. We hope you enjoyed your visit. Feel free to get a hold of us with comments or questions via the interweb and shoot us a telegraph at blackhoofsaloon@gmail.com or find us on the Facebook at Blackhoof WWX Podcast. Music provided for use by Ross Bugden and can be found at one of his YouTube channels, Ross Bugden Music or Ross Bugden Composer. Until your next visit, ride with the sun at your back and always roll those crits.
Here we thought we'd talk to Stuart for about an hour.
Nope, y'all got me talking.
Well, why don't we say you get bleh. I can't even talk.
Say it.